All right, we are recording. Now let's go live. Okay, we are live. Hey everybody, I got Hannah here. I got my girl Hannah. This is actually the first time we're streaming this live in our Illumination Leadership group.
Ooh.
Hey everybody. Uh-oh. I got Hannah here. I got my girl Hannah. Wait. Okay. There's bound to be technical things. I could hear myself on the other end. Okay, so yes, first time streaming it live. This is the second podcast recording for this new podcast. We're calling it Lighthouse Live. And the intention for this podcast, this show, this live transmission is to give amazing humans like you guys access to other amazing humans like Hannah who are doing really cool shit in the world. So thank you, Hannah, for being here. We'll just kind of start right off because, as you guys know, this is going to be a shorter kind of intro to Hannah, and I have some cool questions for her. But if you are watching the live stream, please say hello so we know who was here. Let us know how you're doing, how you're feeling. I know I am in a vortex of huge transformation. And one thing that has helped me so much in the past year is what Hannah happens to be an expert at, and that is connecting to my voice and connecting to our voice. So Hannah is she's a guide, she's a healer, she is a vocal activist, I would say, somebody who is not only classically trained to connect people to their voice, but also energetically trained to connect people to their voice. And my experience with Hannah, we got connected through a mutual friend, and now she moved back to Indiana, so we were in the same state. And I have been on a huge journey of like healing my own voice fears and trauma, and she has been there every step of the way. Voice lessons, we've collaborated a few times, and you guys know she has a really cool teaching inside of the Light Leader Mastermind. So with that, thank you, Hannah. Hi, welcome.
Hey, hi. I'm so happy to be here today.
Yes. So yeah, like I said, I have some questions for you. But I would love
Yeah.
if you could just start with kind of sharing with us your journey into sharing your voice. Like, what did that journey look like for you, and how has it changed since you've stepped more into the healing space also?
Yeah. So there's a lot of irony in this story, and I've only recently, in probably the last like post age 30, really realized the depth of a lot of the irony that's taken place. So I would say it goes all the way back to me being like little 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old Hannah and being obsessed with The Little Mermaid. So basically, just all of the vocal stuff. I was always singing. I was always like wanting to share my voice, wanting to just express myself in that way. And I didn't start out learning voice. I started with piano. So I was very focused on classical piano competitions. I did a lot of fun workshops and just cool festivals and things like that. And in my mid-teens, I ended up getting really, really severe joint pain in my elbows and wrists, and it kept spreading and spreading to the point where I couldn't play anymore. And that was a very, very, it's one of those like tower card moments where like everything felt like it was crashing down for several years, like a lot of anger and a lot of just like why would this happen? I love this so much. Like music is such a huge part of me. This was also during the time when I was in what I would call a cult, like a religious cult, where my voice was extremely suppressed. Um, you know, being taught things like, oh, I need to be the nice girl, not be too much, don't be too loud, like don't share your opinion too much, like be obedient, submit, all of these things. And of course, I wasn't even cognizant of what was happening. I just knew I was angry. So, through the whole kind of piano stuff dissipating and not being able to pursue that, I was like, well, I'm not stopping music. So I ended up getting a degree in voice. So that's like one of the first pieces of irony that I didn't realize of, um, having like a lot of suppression and having a lot of control around the voice. And then I got a degree in voice. And all of that kind of just continued to unfold. I was a teacher for several years in the public school system, musical theater. It was always been a huge love of mine. So I was a vocal director for various organizations and camps and shows. And it's really been the last 2 years, especially, that I would say I've started to realize how much connection there is between the classical training, the vocal training, and all of that, and then all the energy healing. So I got into energy healing because of the joint pain and all of the health issues that ensued in my teens, which ended up being Lyme disease. So it's like that led me on the energy path. And then it's like, oh, wait, then it's all of a sudden like these two loves at the forefront of what I'm the most passionate about are energy healing and music, and especially the voice. And Danielle, you were actually, I want to say, probably the first person, this is so beautiful that we're doing this, that that connection, that integration started to be made. And I started to be like, wait, we can create a whole new thing. And how fun is this that we can learn and activate parts of our voice energetically, our throat chakra, unleash, all kinds of self-image, family programming, collective programming as we're having fun and learning how to sing in healthy ways. And so, um, yes, that is in a nutshell kind of how I got here and where I am.
I love it. Yeah, it's definitely as I've applied it into my own life, it trickles into so many areas. Working with
Mhm.
your voice and connecting to your voice and going on that journey. So I love that. And I think many people that are going to listen to this, or if you're, listening now, so many of us have that like moment, that rug being pulled out from underneath us moment, or several of those moments where it's
Mhm.
like we really have to look at self and look at our life and make a choice, and what I love about the healing journey and kind of the spiritual journey and all of that side of it is like we know we have to make a choice, and we're making it conscious. Like, I'm going to
Mhm.
choose to let this really challenging thing that's happening be fuel for my redemption, or be fuel for my healing, or be fuel for the work I'm going to fucking do in the world. Like, I have goosebumps. Like,
Yeah.
so many of us have that exact story but in different forms. Right. So
Mhm.
I love that. So when you're looking at, I was kind of curious about this because I know what this has been like for me. And as I've started singing more, and like, it's so funny because this baby is driving so much voice. And that I've told you that, like, I'm like
Yep.
playing my guitar more. I got the harmonium coming. Like, I'm singing tonight at the Sound Journey. Like, we're
Oh,
going to do a
yay.
group song. Yeah. But it's like every
Nice.
time I do, people are like, yeah, I want to sing, but I'm so afraid. Right. So is that
Mm.
something that you have started to notice more, and why? Like, why do you think this particular block exists for people?
So the first thing I would say is it's so personal. It's like a very vulnerable part of us. And I like to say our voices are sound print, right? Like we have our fingerprint. People recognize us by our face. They also recognize us by our voice. It's something that is part of us that can't be changed. And so when we are sharing our voice, feels so it feels, yeah, just so vulnerable. And so it's not like I have this external instrument and here I go. Like that's still vulnerable because we're still creating the music, but it's like every vibration and every part of the timbre and quality of us is because of the shape of all little parts internally of our body and how our mouth is and our sinuses. It is unique to only us. And so that makes it feel a little bit scary, like we're being very exposed because it's going to be obvious that it is us and it's coming from us. And there is collectively, I would say it is not really gender bias. I feel like we put a lot of emphasis on women having a lot of shame, but there's different angles of shame and insecurity and self-consciousness for all genders because one, there's like this idea of masculine energy that, oh, don't express, don't like cry too much, don't like be too this still. So it's like you basically have to be like just the same all the time and bottle it up. And then for more feminine energy, it's that don't speak up too much, don't like get yourself in trouble. Then we've also got lots of past life trauma of, witch burnings and things like that, and hangings for sharing the voice. And I wanted to share something really cool that happened this week too, because so last week when I had to postpone this podcast, this was happening. I was going to lead a breath work that day, and it was just the weirdest thing. I was like, why do I have this intense sore throat? And I'm like, and no matter what I'm doing, I'm like, I'm clearing the pathogens, I'm clearing all this stuff. And normally that kind of kicks it out pretty fast energetically. And I'm like, there's no other symptoms, none. Like no runny nose, no fever, no anything. And finally, earlier this week, I was like, I really just need to sit down and kind of give myself some of the same attention that I'm like giving out. And I realized that there was some very heavy energy from the last time I really spoke out and shared truth that I was killed for it. And I was in like this cycle of like trying to expand and I couldn't and I couldn't and I cleared it and immediately I felt a shift in my voice. By the end of the day, it was almost completely better. By 24 hours, it's like almost 100% gone. And the following day, this card pops out, the share your voice. So I also say that because things happen in phases, right? There's certain phases and layers and levels of us expressing our voice. When we first start out, it's like a level of self-love and how we view ourselves, like all the shame and everything like we just talked about. And then as we step into roles where we're utilizing our voice to speak in other ways, that's like a different energy and it takes like a different kind of clearing space for that to unfold. And I just like that card flew out and I just started laughing. I was like, wow, this is just so perfect and so validating. And I also love how the full moon in Aquarius as last
Mhm.
night, and that is so much about our voice and speaking truth. And so I was like, oh, this is perfect.
It's cool to see it translate in the ways where we are needing it to. Even if
Yeah.
we don't want it to translate in those areas. And that's what I tell a lot of people when they come in, to the wellness center and they start their journey of
Mm,
connecting to their body. It's like once you start cultivating that bridge of like my physical body and my energetic body are connected, because
yes.
so many of us go so much of our life with that disconnected, and that's the programming, that's the culture.
Yep.
So many of the leaders in this web of wizards, all of you guys that are listening and here, really what I see all of our work doing is building bridges, different types of
Yeah.
bridges. And many of us are helping people build the bridge between their physical and their energetic body. But I'm always like, hey, once you build that bridge, like stuff's going to come through, like stuff will come through. But that's where we cultivate the belief and the knowing that, like, if it's coming through my experience, there's something in it for me. Doesn't make it comfortable, doesn't make it easy, but does make it have some purpose so that I can show up and say, like, oh, I'm supposed to do this podcast today and my throat's closed or closing or hurting or whatever. Like, what's the tie? Right. And so that's such an empowering place to bring ourselves to. And working with you really helped me with that. Like, I'm like, all right, it's time to stand up and sing. Like, and I literally have a visceral reaction every time. Like, I feel like I'm going to faint, but I'm like, no, I have to fucking do this. Like, I have to do this because there's something else driving it. So thank you for that story. And like, just sharing, like, this is normal things for us to have happening, especially now,
Yeah,
especially now.
and like a little caveat to that too is like our voice is also speaking up and advocating for ourselves. You know, two
Mhm.
years ago, I probably wouldn't have rescheduled that podcast recording because I would have been like, nope, it's happening. I committed. Let's do this. And now it's like, okay, body, I hear you. And like respecting and showing love to our body. So that's the other aspect. The more we can drop in and have like a love and respect and appreciation for our entire body, but you know, for today, like our voice
Mhm.
and what we need, that's just as important because every time we step forward and we speak the truth for us, that is activating our voice.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So, I I think, and this is something you already spoke to, but just like double clicking on the knowing that, like, we all do have a unique voice. And I think I went into it like expecting my voice to sound a certain way, or expecting, even like when I started singing, like being so judgmental about how it sounded to, and so, like, what does that process look like for people that are listening that have been wanting to sing more or tap into that side of themselves? Like, what can they do to start just like releasing some of those binds to maybe where they do build up the courage to hire a singing coach or start singing in front of people or singing with their family? Like, what are some things that they can do now to just witness that in themselves?
yeah. I love that. So, a couple things. One, approach the voice kind with more curiosity, kind of pulling back from some of that judgment. Like, how do we feel when we're little kids? It's like there's no judgment about how somebody looks or how they sound or anything like that. Like, almost like you're rediscovering what your voice is and how your voice sounds and like different aspects of it in like an artistic way and in like a loving way to ourselves because this is like a mending of you know of trauma from our inner child as well. This goes far back, sometimes this goes way far back into lots of generations. So like rediscovering that, like with kind of an openness and curiosity. And then start really small. Maybe just do little tiny recordings of yourself. Maybe you're saying an affirmation, maybe you're singing a short little song. Listen to it and observe how you feel because at the beginning there probably will be resistance and it's like I don't like the way I sound, like we're all like, oh, I hate my voice, like that's a very common thing to say. Well, what if we we listened to ourselves and heard more the energy coming through rather than the quality. And the more this opens up and the more we approach it with love, our voice actually shifts. My voice changed when I started diving into energy clearing. My voice, my singing voice settled into itself. Like vocally, things shifted. Things were easier. Things kind of like lined better. So mechanically, things are even shifting by just doing it, like just singing, just speaking, just do it could be a tiny little thing like, oh, I'm going to record this one affirmation and loop it and listen to it for 5 minutes or whatever. Like it doesn't have to be oh, I'm recording this big, long, audio journal thing or singing like this difficult song or anything. Start with something small and do it by yourself and notice how you feel, and kind of be open to accepting and loving your voice.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to like make noise. That was my
Yeah.
big thing. And I think so much of my stuff started there, like even in a yoga class, teaching yoga. And
Mm.
now I'll teach yoga and I'll be like, take a big breath in, make a sound, let it go. And everybody's like, no, like there's just like, no, I won't make a sound. But even like
Mm.
sounding to release emotions that you're feeling like,
Yeah.
like we literally have this mechanism, like you said, inside of us that's built to help us transmute things. So
Hmm.
when you're learning how to release and be with your emotions, like use the sound for that. Like let the
Mm.
sound within you help to heal or clear or be with. And like it doesn't have to be pretty, even like ugly
Hmm.
sounds like that has been really cool for me. Like, I'm preparing for this birth in 3 months and I'm like, yo, Jerome, I'm about to be making some noise. Like there's going to be tones and noise because the vibration can't not do things internally
Mm.
also to support us. So, it may not be like singing a tune. It may be just like giving yourself permission to make a weird sound while you're driving, or giving birth or whatever. I'm like, I'm gonna be toning like, and I just know it. And I don't think I could have approached even birth that way before you and I started working together. Cause I'm like,
Mm.
there's a connection here. So I guess that's kind of my last real question for you. Like, where do you see healing and sound going from here? Like, what power do you see in bringing sound to our healing parties and in some way? Like, where do you see all of this kind of trajectory going for us as healers and lighthouses?
So many things.
Yeah.
So, just the vibrations itself, like with sound healing bowls and different instruments that are tuned to our body, tuned to the earth, tuned to the universe. You can even buy like tuning forks that are tuned to the frequencies of the planets, which I'm like, that's pretty badass. So it's a returning to the natural tones. And this is like an interesting thing. So this is where there's a bit of a split with music and vibration. The Western music is on a different tuning system than the natural vibrations of our body and the earth and the planets. They are tuned slightly higher. So an A that is tuned to our body would be 432 hertz. But Western music, it's 440. And so now the more natural sounds sound out of tune to our ears if we're like really kind of like in tune to like very, very minute intonation differences. So that's one interesting thing, like remembering the actual vibrations that are natural to our body and the earth and being in harmony with that. It's not like, oh, don't listen to like mainstream music. It's just an awareness, right? And knowing that when we create a sound, a noise, it's the vibration that we need to have. It might not sound like, oh, it's perfectly tuned to this C, or whatever, but it's a healing tone. And so being more in tune with those natural vibrations and even just being in nature and all those things, all of it is vibration. Everything is vibration. um, I think that a lot of melding of like kind of what I'm passionate about with learning how to use our voice in healthy ways from like good training, because there's so much that is distorted collectively, like, oh, you need to sound lower, you need to sound more masculine. So then we're like bottoming out our voice. It's not healthy, or we're trying to push too hard with our chest voice, our lower mechanisms, and we fry our voice. Knowing things that are healthy for our voice, that's going to be healthy for everything, because our voice is, of course, not just our singing voice, it's our mission and our message. And so the more concise and clear we are vocally, the more just energetically with ourselves, we're going to be in alignment with our truth, because this is going to be more open for truth to come through. So, kind of understanding how, like, the healthy technique, classical technique, and then the energy of our voice and our throat chakras, and understanding how the energy moves, it's a super, super powerful thing that we haven't really in this hemisphere had access to, or has been even remotely widely accepted for a long time. Because if I was saying this 150 years ago, I'd be taken out and flogged or something, or burned or whatever. So, remembering too that our truth is powerful. We can only heal in direct relationship to how much truth we are willing to be in and see and experience. And so that truth comes through in huge, huge ways through our voice, and even how we express ourselves, right? Like being able to just articulate and express and communicate in healthy ways. That's a breakthrough, right? This is revolutionary collective for all relationships, for being able to step in and embody our power and our gifts and our mission and know clearly what it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's so much. I love how there are no limits. And the reason that I left the teaching field is because there was something in me just burning that there's so much more that can be done.
Mhm.
And yes, I'm teaching singing to these kids, and I'm doing these things. And it's not that that's not a special and beautiful thing. And we need people in those roles because it is powerful. But I saw, the more I dove into the power of energy, like how drastic this can shift everyone, because it's not just about, oh, we're on our own healing journey, we heal everybody else around us. Like it's like those vibrations trickle out and like give people the opportunity to remember and choose, because they're being exposed to something more in alignment. And so I resigned because I had no idea how this was going to look. Like I was like, wow, I teach voice and piano lessons, and I love musical theater. I love emotion code and body code and energy clearing. And this is so, so powerful. And it's just, the more I dive in, it just feels so exciting, because there's more and more ways that present itself, how to weave them together. And it's just so creative. It feels so creative and so free that I'm only limited to what my imagination and creativity is like telling me. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, there's just there's so much I could say about all of that, but it's
It's
very
so
exciting
good.
and fun.
Yes, it's so fun and it's so exciting because, like you said, so much is possible. So much is
Yeah,
possible right now. And this is just one tool, a really freaking powerful tool that we can use now, not only for our own evolution and healing and closing contracts and timelines, but like you said, the ripple effect. We talk a lot, like the
yeah,
ripple effect it's going to make as you have the courage, because this stuff comes with
yes,
being courageous, and doing the things that
yeah,
feel really scary and challenging. And I know when I go to sing tonight, like this stuff will come up. And, as we keep following that inner sacred yes, and that's what all of energy and spirituality is like learning your inner sacred yes. Do that
mhm,
and just know that you can't go wrong when you do that. You cannot go wrong, and you will be supported. So you have
Yeah.
people like Hannah to cheer you on. You have people like me to cheer you on. So yeah, thank you so much, Hannah, for just sharing, for offering your gifts the way that you are. It's really special. So thank you.
Oh, yes, you're welcome. Thank you. This is awesome, and I love that more and more connections and collaborations are made. Like the more we step into a space where we're just allowing whatever wants to come through and combining whatever wants to combine. Like it's so, again, it's so much fun.
It is so fun. Yeah, so you guys will have ways to get a hold of Hannah, reach out to her if this is something you've been wanting to cultivate within yourself, or even ask her questions, or me anytime. Just know that we're here cheering you on in your journey, in your 1 square inch of the world. Hannah has an amazing teaching in the Light Leader Mastermind, which now anytime you join the mastermind, you get access to the full library with all of the teachings. There's over 25 teachings from wizards just like Hannah in there, and it's powerful. So just know that that is now available. You can go back and watch Hannah's teaching, go back to it. It is there for you. And what else? Yeah, let us know how we can support you guys. Should we take a deep breath together before we end? All right, we'll take a big breath in. Let's inhale. And let's let it go. And then maybe we'll love beam everybody that's on here live, everybody that's listening later. Let's take a big breath in. And let's beam it out. Awesome. Thank you all. If you did watch it live, please let us know what stuck out, what resonated, how you're feeling. And yeah, thanks for being awesome out there, guys. We love you so very much. And we'll see you next time for Lighthouse Live, 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 live. Okay.